There we go.
Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Move Me to Texas team here with another episode of the Real Advice podcast. I am excited to jump in with this week's guest. We have now met in person here in Houston, Texas, but I was going to say we've been internet friends for a while and, followed each other on social media, but he is the former agent development director for a large company in Ohio. He has been a speaker, a trainer, a coach, a real estate agent. I don't know if there's any position in real estate that our guest this week has not yet held. He was named as one of the top 100 most influential leaders in real estate. He's been named on many social media influencer lists as well. And I'm just excited to dig in because he's a wealth of knowledge. Please join me in welcoming Sean Carpenter. How are you today, Sean?
Good, Katie, good to see you. Great to talk to you. How you been?
I've been well. Just, digging into the final quarter of the year, which is always a fun time of year, I feel. Putting the, pedal to the floor and really just trying to end the year strong. So, yeah.
It's an interesting time of year because you're really focused on two things. You're focused on finishing strong, but you're also focused on putting seeds in the ground for a great first quarter of the new year, right? It's important now because a lot of the conversations we're having now will hopefully turn into some business in January, February, and March.
For sure. I mean, and I think that that's one of the biggest things these days is understanding that not every single person I talk to today is going to transact today, right? So, we've just got to continue to have those conversations. So, for someone that may not know you, they've clearly been living underneath a rock, but who are you and how did you get into real estate?
So I am Sean Carpenter from Columbus, Ohio. I've been 25 years in the business now. I started in 1998 as an agent. I worked 4.5 years as an individual agent. Then I became a branch manager, had the opportunity to go into leadership, and we just had our first child, Katie. So to have a paycheck and have benefits was kind of a cool opportunity, although it meant I gave up selling. But really, anyone who's listening to this that's a manager or a broker, you never really give up selling because you're always selling every day, right? You're selling the business, you're selling the company, you're selling the office, you're selling the training, you're selling the tools. I did that for 2 years. I loved the coaching and training part of the job, but I kind of hated the managing part of the job. So I became the director of education for our companies in Columbus and Cincinnati. And I was in charge of all the agent training for at the time, about 12 or 1,300 agents. And so I kind of got carte blanche to build a training program around what I thought agents needed to know to get in the business, but then also doing the current agent training. I did that for, 11 and a half, 12 years. And in that time, I started speaking at state and local and national events. And I really enjoyed that part of it. So in 2016, I made the decision to retire from the director of training role, leave the paycheck, leave the benefits, go back to being an independent contractor, just like you, and being my own agent. And at the same time, I opened up my own company called Sean Speaks, where I could prospect to speaking opportunities. And then during COVID, I took on a role of kind of a coach consultant for some of our top agents and teams in Columbus and Cincinnati. So I work with about 80 top agents and teams, helping them grow their business and maintain their business.
That's a lot of stuff that you're currently doing, right? So you've got your real estate business, right? You have your coaching business, and then you have the speaking business, right?
Yeah, and I do all three at the same time. And that's that three-legged stool, Katie, that I think gives me some credibility with whichever one I'm doing. I think I have credibility in the other two, right? When I'm working as an agent, I tell my clients that, I'm a national speaker and I also work with our top agents. And I think that gives me some credibility. Certainly when I coach, almost every one of the agents I work with sells more real estate than I do. But I think they like the fact that I'm a national voice and I have connections around the country and I give them ideas and just look outside of their business that helps them. And then certainly when I speak, Katie, you travel the country and you've been around, heard many speakers, and, to have an agent, to have a speaker on the stage who is in the field with you, I think there's some credibility there as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that having when you made the comment, like a lot of the teams that you coach, sell a lot more real estate, but being in the field and having transactions and actually seeing what's happening in the market is a lot different than hearing what's happening in the market, right? We know this year has been a lot tougher of a year than, the past 2 or 3. And so you having some of that experience in addition to hearing it from the teams you coach and the people that you coach, totally gives you a ton of credibility, for sure. And I love how modestly and casually you say 80 different teams you're coaching. And I know you've been on hundreds of stages. So, if y'all haven't come across Sean before, like he's a wealth of knowledge in the real estate space. So I appreciate your modesty, but I'll toot your horn for you over here. Okay. So, talking a little bit kind of on, I guess we'll put the coach hat on for a little bit. If I was a brand new agent right now, and I'm trying to break into the industry, right? We know that this is a harder market. We know that this is, it's still a low inventory market, but with interest rates and just all of the things, it's more difficult today to sell a home, and to help a client, find a home than it was, you know, last year or the year before, right? What would you tell me I should be doing if I was a brand new agent today? Like what activities, what, skills should I be working on and things like that?
Well, let me, I guess, start the answer to my question with my philosophy, right? I think real estate's about 3 things. It's about building relationships, solving problems, and having fun. So if you put those 3 things up on the wall or a Post-it note or a whiteboard in front of you and know that every day when you wake up, you got to build relationships with somebody, either a new relationship with somebody you've never met or deepen a relationship with somebody you've known for years. If you can help people solve their problems on a regular basis, whether they're real estate related problems or not, if you can help people solve problems when they have a real estate problem, they're probably going to come to the person who's good at solving problems. And if you can have fun doing it, that's a pretty good day. So I know as a new agent, you want to get listings, you want to get buyers, you want to get referrals. But if you build relationships and solve problems and have fun, guess what? You'll get buyers, you'll get sellers, you'll get referrals. So that would be like the upper level. Then I think what you need to understand is that real estate, this game we call real estate, is a relationship business. It's not a house business. It's not a building business. It's not a land business. It's a people business.
Yeah.
And so if you focus on relationships, you're going to need to have what I call the 4 levels of a successful business, right? It starts with a database, right?
Yep.
Everyone needs a database of some sort. And that's anyone you have contact information for. That's the macro level. That's the top level if we're looking down. The second level would be your sphere of influence, right? Those are people that I know them and they know me.
Yeah.
Now, Katie, everyone in my sphere of influence is part of my database, but not everyone in my database is necessarily part of my sphere of influence. Because I could have my homeowners association list, or I could have all my kids school list, or whatever, country club list, whatever. After your sphere of influence becomes your clients, underneath your client, under sphere of influence, your next level down is your clients. Now, a new agent wouldn't have any clients yet, but our clients are the next level down. And then the deepest level is your bullseye. Your bullseye are those 20 people that want your success almost as much as you want it yourself, right? So as a new agent, I would say, find your 20. Who are those 20 people? It could be the maid of honor from your wedding. It could be the 3 guys you play golf with every weekend. It could be your spouse or partner, your kids, if they're maybe adult kids, your parents, if they're still alive. Your go-to people, the people that are going to be hearing conversations about real estate. They're going to say, you got to talk to my friend Katie, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to interrupt conversations at the brewery next to them. Those are your best people. And the reason I say 20 is because if you think of a typical calendar, Katie, a typical monthly calendar, if you cut off the weekends, how many business days are left?
About 20.
About 20.
About 20.
And so you put Katie's name and Ryan's name and Bill's name and Jeff's name and Sean's name. And on the day that Katie's name shows up on my calendar, if Katie's a bullseye person of mine, then the call doesn't have to be, hey, Katie, it's Sean. Do you know anyone who wants to buy or sell a house? It's, hey, Katie, how's Riley doing? Have you been to the new play date place? Have you been to the new ice cream place? All I'm trying to do is get my name back in the top of your mind. And those 20 people, then once I have my 20, and maybe it becomes 30, then it becomes 40, then it becomes that core group of people that becomes my business. So that's where I really think agents need to focus on that part of it, on the who they know, so that they can build that relationship with those people, so that they then can ripple effect and tell other people
out. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that sometimes when you said they want it just as much as you do, I feel like sometimes those people may want it more than you do, right?
Yeah.
They're going to put more pressure on you. I know whenever I have big goals or big things, like I have a couple friends, that we kind of tell each other our goals and the things that we were shooting for. Right. And a lot of times they're closer, they're in alignment. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get there before you. It's a little bit of competition, but always the support, right? And then, I know telling a partner or spouse or your kids or whoever it may be, like, then they're going to be the ones that are like, oh, you said you were going to do this and you're home eating on a taco on the couch. What are we doing here?
Right.
So I love that kind of added layer of accountability, but then also the support into your business. That's awesome.
Well, think about what we're trying to do, Katie, in our business. If I went to any local mall in the city or where you're at or anywhere around the country, and I just had a clipboard and I said, hey folks, we're just asking a couple quick survey questions. Who's your doctor and who's your dentist?
Yeah.
And who's your financial advisor and who's your attorney and who's your, they would have an answer for me, right? If I asked you who's your pediatrician, you don't have to think like, let me see, is it, and you don't have to dig through your phone or dig through your purse. But if I said, who's your realtor? So many people would say, I don't understand the question. I don't have a realtor right now. I'm not selling my house right now.
Yeah.
Isn't that a shame that we have a doctor, and we have a dentist, and we have an accountant, and we have an attorney, but we don't have a realtor? If you can go to that bullseye level and become somebody's realtor, right? Even if they've never bought a house from you, but they're like, Katie's my realtor. Right?
Yeah.
Katie's my person when it comes to real estate. She's my go-to.
I know who to call. So building relationships, right? For sure. So like building relationships, what I love it as the philosophy, and I love your core values, right? The build relationships, solve problems, have fun. I think you should also add the fourth of drink beer, but I guess that's your having fun, but I do believe it deserves its own bullet point, but I digress. What would be the things that you would do tactically, right? If you just got into real estate today to build better relationships? Because I run into it with my agents. They're like, well, what do I say? What do I do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably everyone's heard the classic Ford technique, right? The family, occupation, recreation, dreams. I think that's a good template. That's a good kind of roadmap. But really, when you get to, when you get to know about people, when you make them the focus of attention, right? And for me, it's, where'd you go to college? And because that as a sports fan, as a college sports fan, that gives me so many more avenues to talk about, right? Where did you grow up? Are you, do you come from a small family, a large family? Are you a single child? Are you one of seven? Because that's going to give you lots of things to talk about. Vacations, Netflix, Spotify, right? What are people watching right now? I mean, that becomes such an easy conversation. And then just finding different reasons to talk to people that aren't always real estate, right? And that's where I go back to my 6 channels of communication, right? If you think about the 6 channels of communication, every agent should be touching literally every day. You got face-to-face, voice-to-voice, screen-to-screen, which is that's texting, right? There's inbox, there's mailbox, and there's social. And if I can find ways to touch my database, sphere, clients, and bullseye through those different channels, and I mix those channels around so that Katie's not just hearing from me on Instagram Messenger. She's also hearing from me on a phone call, and maybe a video text message. Then she gets a handwritten note from me, and then I see her at the gym, and then I call her, on Riley's birthday or whatever. Then all of a sudden you start saying like, man, I hear from Carp all the time, but I never feel like he's in my face about real estate. Because you might get my email newsletter about real estate, but then I might call you about an event going on in our town. And then I might mail you a birthday card for your daughter. And I might see you at the farmer's market. Yeah. And all of a sudden you become this omnipresent Sean's everywhere. Yeah. Right. And so that's what I really think is one of the ways you build relationships is have lots of conversations over a period of time. Right.
Well, and I love the first point you made of finding different reasons to talk to people that isn't just real estate, right? Because you're not going to build any relationship if, I'm just calling you, Sean, and being like, hey, so who do you know that wants to buy or sell? And you're like, I don't know anyone. Why are you, I haven't talked to you in 14 years. Why are you calling me? Right.
And Kate, it's funny that you recognize, over my shoulder, as we record this, I have the big drink beer sign. And I like to tell people your brand is more than your brand.
For sure.
Right. You really got to start thinking about like, what is my brand? I mean, my brand, I'm a realtor, right? You're a realtor. My brand is Cole Banker. Your brand is Real, right? But my brand is also Columbus, where I'm from. Yeah. But I'm also from Ohio. So once again, that's part of my brand. When I travel around the country, they're like, oh, you're the guy from Ohio. But my brand is also the University of Florida, where I went to school. My brand is also golf. My brand is also craft beer. My brand is also Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And I say all those things because that's part of who I am. And I've had people say to me, well, what the hell does Tom Petty and Heartbreakers have to do with you selling real estate? Here's what it has to do with me selling real estate. If you're on the way to Costco this weekend and you're hearing Tom Petty on the radio as you're pulling in the parking lot and you say, oh my gosh, this is Sean Carpenter's favorite band. And then you walk into Costco 5 minutes later and you run into a friend from high school you haven't seen in a while. And they mention that they're moving back to town. And you say, you should call Sean.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm right there on the top of your mind. Or, you know, like I did with you when I was in Houston, I reached out to you and says, hey, what craft breweries can we visit on the north side of Houston? You gave me a list of 3 or 4, right? You actually met me at one of them. But people around the country will call me and say, hey, Sean, I'm going to this city. Have you been to any of these breweries?
Yeah.
Or they'll say, I'm going to this city. What golf course should I play?
For
Which
sure.
means they're thinking of me instead of going to Yelp or going to Google or going anywhere else. So part of your building a relationship is finding all these different reasons to talk to somebody.
Well, and I think, you know, you were saying the different, you know, face-to-face, voice-to-voice, screen-to-screen, like all the different things, one of them being social media. You share a lot on social media about your travels. You post about the different beers you're having at the different breweries and the airports and things like that, right? I see you post a lot of different music stuff as well. Now I know Tom Petty, so I'll remember that. But, you know, those are things that you share about your life, you know, that have built your brand over the past, you know, how many ever years you've been on social media, that are the things that keep you top of mind with people. I love that. One thing I think that you do really well is the video text. You mentioned that you kind of glossed over it a little bit, but I mean, I feel like those are one of the greatest differentiators, right? I feel like those are one of the best ways to create that relationship, because like a text message is great, a voicemail is great, but being able to see someone, you know, kind of face to face ish, right?
Yeah.
You know, hear them is a lot different than a voicemail.
Yeah, I've had great luck with that. You know, it's just become part of, once again, maybe part of my brand.
Mm-hmm.
And what Katie's talking about is, you know, I send video text messages to people on their birthdays, where it's personalized. It's not just a pre-recorded happy birthday. It's I say their name and I reference usually something about them. And it's funny, I just sent a couple before we started recording, and I'll read you what this guy responded back to. This is a friend of mine who's a real estate agent in St. Pete. I send the video and it says, thanks, man. I truly look forward to this every year. Right. And I tell people, me that they have it saved on their phone, and, you know, it makes a difference. And I think, you know, you get 300 or 400 happy birthdays on Facebook and some other, you know, messages, and you get some generic cards from your accountant and from your broker. But when you get that personalized video text message, I just think it's a neat thing. And I also do it other times. It's not always for people's birthdays. Sometimes I'm just, you know, I'm on the back patio having a cocktail, and I'll find someone on my phone and I'll just send them a, hey, just want to say, hey, put a face to a voice. And I agree with you, Katie. I think it stands out amongst the sea of text messages and DMs and comments on social.
One thing too, just to tactically on social, is like, if you're sending video DMs in like a platform like Instagram or something like that, then if I'm responding back to you and we're exchanging messages in Instagram, it will help the algorithm in seeing our interaction to put my content higher in your feed.
Yeah.
Right. So like the text messages are great if you have someone's phone number, but if you don't have someone's phone number and you're connected with them on social, that's a great way to kind of dig deeper on, you know, Instagram with them, and eventually, you know, take that relationship to, you know, having each other's phone numbers or whatever it may be. But
I think as you're scrolling through, you know, someone like you, Katie, and your generation, who gets probably way more Instagram messages than I would. But when you're scrolling through and you see 5 new messages and 2 are reels that somebody shared with you, but 1 you see as a video from somebody, it's just going to sort of jump to the front of the line. It's
for sure.
I can watch that reel at any time, but this guy or this girl took time to send me a personal video. I'm going to see what it is. And there's a pretty good chance that you might say, I'm going to respond back with a video. Right?
Yeah.
So
definitely. I really like your, I don't want to say funnel because it's not a funnel, but levels of breaking down people, you know, because I think that when many people get into real estate, you know, they think of it as a funnel of like, okay, we've got to just get everyone down the funnel. We've got to get everyone down the funnel, and really thinking about it. These are the levels of relationships and the cadence of communication and things like that. You know, just flips it just a little bit to build better relationships. So I love that.
Well, and it's, you can't treat everybody as one size fits all.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, our industry is kind of known for that one size fits all approach. And there are some things that are one size fits all, right? A market report about the greater Houston area is kind of one size fits all. But a market report for the Woodlands doesn't apply to someone in Sugarland. right? So that one size fits all, I think, if you're talking about a 55 and older community, why would you send that to your millennials?
Yeah.
It doesn't apply. And call it what you will, but the funnel is one of my like worst words I hear in real estate. I understand what the concept is, right? Top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel. But the whole idea of a funnel, I'm holding up to you a little picture, but what we should do is take that funnel and turn it on its side, right? And what we should then do is start doing this, build relationships and solve problems and have fun and pre-qualify and get the right people in the process. So that when you deliver this amazing experience through the process, when they get to the other side, they pick it up like a megaphone and tell everybody how awesome it was to work with Katie Day.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you put the right people in the experience, because the other way with a funnel, you get lots of leads in the top, but if people don't make it through the process, the mega sales trainers will say, who cares about that? All we're worried about is getting money out the other side. It's like, but we lost people in the process.
Yeah.
If we got the right people in the process and deliver an amazing experience throughout, then they're going to come out the other end and pick it up like a megaphone and tell everybody how awesome it was to work with them. Because, I've said this before, it's one of my keynote presentations, give them something to talk about. If I have a good story to tell and other people tell it for me, then I don't have to tell my story.
For sure.
I just have to take care of the people that tell my story for me.
Of course. Yeah. No, that's something, I can tell you how great I am all day long, right? But if someone else tells you how great I am, you're going to listen, so much more than me talking about me. So, so on that kind of same thought or same thread, what advice would you give as far as soliciting reviews? Like, or do you just say, oh, I'm going to give such great service that you're going to be compelled to leave me one? Or are you coaching, your clients along, or coaching your coaching clients along for them to solicit reviews from their clients?
Yeah. Reviews are important. I think they're extremely important and they can be used in so many different ways. Right. But, you have to ask for them. I believe a lot in, I'm one of those people that if Southwest Airlines or a product sends me one of those surveys in my email, I always take it because I just figure that's going to be one more reason for someone to fill out a survey or a review on me. But asking, right? And hopefully maybe at the beginning of the conversation, at the listing presentation, the buyer counseling session, when you start working with a client, say, Mr. and Miss Buyer, we're going to have a blast over this next 5-6 weeks. It's going to be a journey, but hopefully at the end, I can earn a nice, referral base from you, and as well as a testimonial, because it really helps me tell my story, through the voice of other people. Video testimonials, I think, are great if you can get them. Not everyone wants to do that, but you might have some clients that would be willing to do a little video testimonial, whether it's a reel or whether it's a YouTube short, or that need to be a 25-minute dissertation on the process. But I think it's important. And here's the cool thing: once you have the testimonials, Katie, is using them more than just putting them on your Google My Business page or putting them on your Zillow. And there's no reason why you couldn't do a testimonial Tuesday on your Instagram.
Yeah.
And every Tuesday morning, Katie posts a testimonial, because here's the cool thing about testimonials is they're evergreen.
For sure. Nobody
ever writes a testimonial that says, we enjoyed working with Katie Day on the October 14th, 2023, and she only helped us that week. They say, Katie was a great communicator and we had a blast working with her, which means you could use that testimonial 3 Tuesdays from now and next spring.
Yeah.
And people aren't going to go, hey, Katie, this is Sean. I saw your post today and you used that one already. Right. Because if you get enough of them and then people see that and they say, you know what, I haven't sent Katie the testimonial I promised to her. So then they might do it, if only so that they get spotlighted on your testimonial Tuesday.
Yeah. If someone did come up to you and said, hey, Sean, I saw that you used this post today on October, whatever, but you also used it in June, that would be a little creepy.
Yeah, it would be creepy, but I'd say, hey, thanks for noticing.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm always out there striving for things, but those clients of mine were so fun. I just wanted to put them back up in the spotlight again or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So switching gears a little bit, to some of the more fun stuff, right? So, you mentioned that a lot of your brand is your interests and things like that, right? What would be your number one beer you've had?
I'm a big fan of Heady Topper, which is traditionally one of the #1 beers in America. It's from Vermont, Burlington. It's from Stowe, Vermont is where they're from. There's another great one from Vermont called Little Sip of Sunshine by Lawson's. I like Lunch from Maine Brewing Company. Toppling Goliath in Iowa has a great one called Pseudo Sue, or Sosis is their triple IPA. Here's a good one. Yellow. Let's see. Meadowlark Brewing Company in Montana has one called Teddy Roosevelt's American Badass Imperial IPA. And it's a unbelievable beer from Meadowlark Brewing Company. There's some really good ones around the country.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to watch this whole new craft beer explosion because, as you know, in Houston's a great marketplace for craft beers. It really gives a good vibe to the city, right? You get a really good feel for the city. And when you're there at the local breweries, people take such pride in their little local brewery and the story it tells. And, you know, there will always be Budweiser and Miller Lite and Coors and Corona and, you know, those beers. But when you get to go in and have a beer named after a neighborhood or something like that, it's kind of fun. You see it with sports teams and you see it with, local neighborhoods where people just kind of feel that. And so that's a few of my favorites. And I'm sure I could name a bunch more,
20
right?
more. Yeah.
Legal Remedy down in South Carolina, Tampa Bay Brewing Company, got some other ones.
How do you keep track of all of the beers that you drink?
So there's an app called Untapped. It's a social media app for beer drinkers, which is kind of a fun one. There's Beer Advocate, which I use a lot where I'm in a place where I see a couple beers. I'm like, I only have time for one beer. Which one? And I'll look at Beer Advocate to see like which one has maybe a higher ranking.
Oh yeah. How there?
Yeah. And then just, when you get in that community, much like any other industry, you end up with some friends that, they'll send you pictures and they'll say, have you seen this one? Or if you're in this place, you got to get this one. And, I think of like Old Nation and in Michigan, and my friend that lives in Michigan, well, he'll say they just tapped a new one. And if you see this one in your local marketplace. And so it's fun, and I try and document what I'm drinking so that people that follow me can see. And much like you kind of just forget to document it, right? I mean, how many times have you been to an event where you're like, I should have done an Instagram story about that place. And you didn't do it in the moment because you weren't in the moment. So.
Well, and so I'm bringing this back to real estate, right? So the tracking of the beer and everything. What activities do you recommend agents track in their daily business?
Well, who they're talking to, right? I mean, having their CRM or whatever tool they use to manage the relationship. So, those 6 channels of communication, right? If I see that the last time I talked to Katie Day was 3 weeks ago and it was through text, then I probably don't want to text you again. I want to maybe hit you in the mailbox, or I want to hit you on social media, or I want to make a phone call. So those would be some things. Listen, when it comes to putting seeds in the ground, right? The business development part of our business, it should be done early in the morning, right? The cool thing about real estate, Katie, is it's different every day. But the bad thing is it's different every day.
Yeah.
And so if you don't control your seeds in the ground part of your business, right? Being a farmer, putting seeds in the ground that could turn into business tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year, you probably aren't going to get around to it, right? Because the day's going to get crazy. You're going to have to let a home inspector into the property. You're going to get a phone call from the title company that needs a report. You're going to have to, follow up with the seller on something. You got to get your kid from daycare. And you're like, I'll just prospect extra tomorrow. I'll just put more seeds in the ground tomorrow. And then tomorrow blows up. And then the next day blows up. And then you're behind, right? And a lot of new agents, back to your question earlier, new agents get busy and then they close deals and then they have nothing and they have to start over again because they're so busy managing their deals. They don't create new deals. And so they should be tracking kind of the conversations they're having, right? The thing you can control in this business is how many conversations am I having each day? Whether that's a true face-to-face conversation, a voice-to-voice conversation, a text conversation, which to me is, if I open up your phone and you show me your conversation, it's gray and white and gray and white and gray and white, or green and white and green. It's not just me talking, it's you responding back and forth.
Yeah. Too many people don't focus in on the conversations, or they just have as many conversations as possible, but they're not meaningful and they're not, with the same people. It's just, I'm going to call everyone I can to see who can buy a house. So
and listen, conversations, then the goal is to turn those into appointments.
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, those would be the two words I'd say put up on your dashboard in your car, at your desk, and conversations, appointments. How many conversations did I have today? How many appointments did I schedule? And an appointment, I want to make this very clear, Katie, it doesn't have to be a buyer counseling session or a listing appointment. It could be breakfast or coffee or lunch or happy hour or a pedicure or a time at the dog park or shopping trip or play date. Because when you're having coffee, breakfast, lunch, happy hour, what do you think might come up? Right? I mean, there's a good chance that real estate will come up and not because real estate will come up, because life will come up.
Yeah.
And then real estate will come up as part of that, because what we're listening for in these conversations is change, right? Is someone having a baby? Is someone getting a new job? Is someone getting married? Is someone getting divorced? Did someone die? Is someone, losing a job, getting foreclosed on, right? Little things that could say, hey, I do that. That's part of what I do. And so conversations and appointments. At the end of the day, if you didn't have any appointments, then you better work hard to get an appointment the next day.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Okay. I'm going to hit you with one last question. It's hard hitting, but I think you'll have the answer to it.
Okay.
If it were your last meal on earth, what would you be eating?
Well, I know I'd be drinking.
Okay.
I'd have a couple cold beers. Last meal on earth. I'm not a wing guy. I'm not a, appetizers are fun, but last meal on earth, I don't know what that'd be. It'd be, could be pizza, could be an Italian sub. I love Italian subs, right? When I go to a restaurant, if they have, everybody has burgers, everybody has chicken sandwiches, but if they have a good Italian sub, with Italian dressing and crispy bread, and that's probably one of my go-tos when I travel the country. It's something I look forward to on a menu if I can find it. Wouldn't be steak, wouldn't be sushi, wouldn't be anything like that. So I'll go with an Italian sub and a couple cold beers.
I love it. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat today. If someone doesn't already follow you on social media, where would be the best place for them to connect with you?
So on social media, I'm at Sean Carp on both Twitter. I'll still call it Twitter till the day I die. Yeah. On Twitter and Instagram, at Sean Carp, SeanCRP. You can find me on Facebook. And Katie, I'd love for people to, I blog every single week. I blog at carpscorner.net, which you can get to also going to SeanCarpenter.com. I've been blogging now. My last blog post I wrote this week was my 1216th blog post.
1216.
Yes.
And you said you've been doing this every week?
I blog. I haven't missed a week in, I think, 7 years. There are some times when I write a second one each week if I feel like it's something my readers and audience would want to hear. But since 2000, I've been blogging at Carp's Corner, and it's just a place for me to talk about building relationships and solving problems and having fun. It's my audience is real estate. It's agents, brokers, managers, affiliates. But I have a lot of friends that read it. I've become a better writer in those 23 years because I've written more.
I would hope so.
Sometimes it's real estate related. Sometimes it's about a person I met or a person that I encountered. It could be a lesson that I want my people, I'm just reviewing because I put in a presentation I'll be doing in a couple of weeks in your neck of the woods. You ever been to the Southwest Terminal at Houston Airport at Hobby? And there's a restaurant there called Papa's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had such a cool experience in there with Angel and Maria, the two servers, that I wrote a blog post about them. Right. And I love finding people doing something worth talking about. And so I write blogs about them so that my readers can say, gosh, what can I do today that might be worth talking about? And so connect with me on my blog, subscribe to it. And I love sharing that as well.
That is a testament to consistency, Sean. 23 years. I don't know that I've done anything consistently for, 23 days. I'm kidding. But that is impressive.
Thank you. And because I have this kind of streak going every Sunday, it's time to write the blog. Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, Katie, during the week, I'll be inspired with an idea. I'm like, oh, this would be a great blog. And I'll put it in my notes in my phone or whatever. And then sometimes I can recreate it, and sometimes I can't. And other times I just sit here in front of my laptop on Sunday afternoon and I say, I know I've got to deliver something to my readers tomorrow. So what will it be? And so I might write about, I look up who was born on this day or what famous thing happened this day. And I try and say, is there a lesson? Is there a story? Is there something I can relate. My blog post this past week was called Getting Off to a Good Start. And I took the analogy of the Ryder Cup this past week, where the US got off to a horrible start, but the European team got off to a great start. And because of a great start, they were able to go on and win. And whether it's in sports or business, the start of a listing presentation, the start of a buyer counseling session, the start of a relationship, you get off to a good start, there's a good chance you're gonna have a great finish.
I'm very impressed. So that's carpscorner.net, you said?
That's correct. carpscorner.net. Or you can go to seancarpenter.com and you'll find that as well.
Linked it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, I will definitely head on over there. And I encourage, if you are listening, to do the same. But Sean, thank you so much for your time today. Very much appreciated. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person again sometime soon.
Yeah, Katie, congrats on all your success. And thank you for all you do for our industry.